It all begins with words uttered by individuals, repeated by others, and became a philosophy, an ideology.
When you become anything without realizing that it's happening, it's called brainwash.
I hated America. The Jews were the reason for all the evil in the world.
This we must not allow to happen again.
All right. That was, again, just a quick tease there. But in a new movie out this month, Never Again follows a Holocaust survivor and a former radical Islamist as they come together in a cutting-edge feature-length documentary. Joining me this morning, the film's director, Rick Eldridge, along with one of its main subjects, Kazim Hafiz. I wanted to make sure I got those names right. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me.
Morning. Thank you for having us.
So tell me about this documentary, and I guess let's start with you, Rick, because obviously you're the director. What made you want to talk about these subjects? And again, when you look at, I guess there was a recent survey where how many people, it was like almost half of the people surveyed had no idea how many Jews were murdered in the Holocaust. I mean, it's just shocking to me that we're talking about that these days, and it just feels like people are forgetting.
Right. And that's part of the reason there's a question mark at the end of a title of our movie. Never Again became a phrase that the Jewish people used after the Holocaust, that we could never allow this to happen again. And yet we see what's happened over the course of the last months and years, even in America, but around the world. And we have to question. We need to learn from our history. We need to learn from what has happened. And therefore, we tell the story of Irving and what happened to him during the Holocaust, as well as Kazim and how his mindset changed as he began to understand the Jewish people and who they were.
Well, and that's what, I told you before we got started, I'm a huge fan of documentaries that are well done like this. And I think you need the perspective of kind of everyone that's involved in the story. And man, Kazim, I really, I give you a lot of props for having the courage to speak out and say your story and maybe explain a little bit about what your perspective was and how you got into that. But why was that important to be a part of this documentary as well for you?
For sure. I think part of it was because it was the right thing to do. As Rick mentioned, we're at a time where anti-Semitism is rising. So given my experiences, having lived it also, because I think there's this perception that you either are extreme or you're not, or you become bigoted one day or you're not. And as somebody who grew up in a fairly normal upbringing, a fairly good upbringing, I adopted these radical views growing up in the West. I wanted to highlight how easily these things happen and why it's so important to speak out against it. We all have a part to play, and that was really essential for me to be part of that.
What's interesting is the Jewish man that shares his story, right in the beginning of the documentary, he is in classrooms and talking with kids, younger kids about this. I have younger kids, 6- and 8-year-old and a 1-year-old. How important is it? I know it's a tough subject, but how important is it that we start talking with kids about this subject and about what happened in our history?
Well, I think it's very important. And I mentioned we went to 6 different countries to shoot this. Khomeini is where that happened. And it was actually in the city where Irving grew up. And he was ushered into a cattle car and then sent off to this place he had no idea, which became Auschwitz. And it was very emotional for Irving to go back and see children around his age and be able to talk to them and tell them the story. And I think it was very meaningful and impactful for them too. There are a few questions that you'll see in the movie too that the kids begin to ask of him. But I think it's very important that at a young age that we teach the right things. We learn from our history as well as we learn the idea of other cultures and what they're about and how we need to, that throughput message of love and not hate.
I love that message. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning. We're showing the website where you can find out more information about how to get your tickets to see this documentary, but I can't thank you enough for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.